Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Daily African Proverbs. My name is Simon Javan Okello, and I am in Seattle, Washington as we speak. I am from Kenya originally, and I love, creating this space, this virtual space every day, Monday to Friday. And typically I have a guest here with me where we discuss, these African proverbs. And today's proverb is actually one that I'm hoping can help you get, let go of pain and let go of some painful memories, and also, how to let go of some painful experiences that you've had before. The proverb is from Kenya, where I come from originally, and it says, we should put out the fire while it is still small. We should put out the fire while it is still small. When you think about this proverb, what is it that comes to your mind? We are going to have, a 1 hour conversation here on Clubhouse. And also we are going to be live and direct on YouTube. So I'm going to add the link to the YouTube live stream in just a second. But I truly want to appreciate you all, Mimi, Adi, Rose, Rob, King, and Vitalis for joining me. I want to urge you to 5 people to join us for today's conversation. I see that we've been joined by Stella, who is an amazing supporter of the Daily African Proverbs, but also the lady that is behind a lot of the work that I do here. She helps with, just ensuring that I show up. She's ensuring that our content is out on time, and she's joining us all the way from Kenya. So make sure you're following Stella, by the way. So I'm going to add the link to the YouTube live stream, and then I am going to share my interpretation of today's proverb. And then we are going to begin hearing from some of you who have already joined us on the stage, like Mimi. Mimi, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope everything is okay for you. And also I want to urge you, if you're with us on Clubhouse, please go ahead and share the link to this room, clip this conversation and share it on Twitter, and we will be able to retweet it over there. So now back to this proverb. We should put out fire while it is still small. This one is a really, really important one. And when I was thinking about it, I was thinking of this from the perspective of letting go of pain, letting go of painful memories. And I thought that this proverb particularly is a reminder that no matter what has happened to you in the past, it should not hold you hostage. You should still be able to free yourself by who you surround yourself with, especially when when thoughts about tragedies come to you. For example, last week when Ukraine was first invaded by Russia, of course it was in 2014 that Ukraine was initially invaded by Russia. But I was having a meeting with a number of youths in Europe. I'm involved with a project that a number of youths at a university in Europe are also a part of, and I didn't know how impacted they've been by what's going on in Ukraine. I didn't know. I don't have somebody personally who has been affected, but one of them lost a friend in 2014. And what is happening now was very, very traumatizing for them. And so showing up in that meeting without knowing how impacted everybody was, by the events in Ukraine was very was terrible on my part, and I should have created space where I should have actually indulged everybody who was on the call on how are you all doing and what's going on for you, you know. And I didn't know that there was a fire that was actually bubbling hot during this meeting until towards the end, where I saw one of the young guys who was in the meeting. He was in a very bad place, and throughout the meeting he was not even concentrating at all. I just felt that the meeting was terrible. And then at the end, I was able to ask him, you've been saying all through this meeting that, we should wrap up because what's going on in Ukraine has impacted you, but you're not in Russia or Ukraine. You are in the Netherlands. Can you tell me more how this has impacted you? So, I waited too long, and the fire went on for too long before I was able to have a meaningful understanding or conversation with this young man. And at the end is when I learned that he had actually lost a close friend in 2014 when the situation in Ukraine, when Crimea was annexed by Russia. So I just wanted to share that to get us started for our conversation today, and to also just encourage you that, when it comes to these African proverbs, especially the one today, my perspective is that it is to remind you that you can let go of, of the pain. You can let go of the painful memories, even for a moment. But also it's a reminder that, for example, with the Daily African Proverbs, it's a difficult show to run Monday to Friday. And if I knew that it was a burden that I could not carry, I would have easily stopped, before it grew the way it has grown. And there are many other things that I've started since I started the Daily African Proverbs that I have stopped. I have let go of the pain and suffering of doing those things because I knew that they were not as fulfilling as doing the Daily African Proverbs. So you just have to choose which fire do you want to continue adding more fuel into, and which fire do you want to, put out in order for you to continue thriving. So with that, I want to open the floor so that we can hear Mimi's voice and hear from Adi. Adi, thank you again for your continued support, and Vitalis, thank you for joining us on stage. I want to, invite everyone else who is in the audience to join us on stage. And I also want to urge you to share the links to the conversation that we are having, clip this, the nuggets that you get from today's conversation, and share it on Twitter or your IG, and let us know how you're doing. So Mimi, please introduce yourself, share with us where you're joining us from, and also what today's proverb from Kenya means to you. The proverb says we should put out fire while it is still small. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. It's lovely to see you and hear you. And I am Mimi. I come today from Florida, USA. And let me just tell you something about myself. I am one of those people, and I think there's a lot of those people, who has a special affinity for fire. And so this proverb made me think about a lot of things, but it first made me think about the nature of fire, right? Made me think about heat and passion, destruction and renewal, power, and that got me to thinking about the fact that though I love fire and it brings some amazing things into my life, and I can sit by the fire all day long, I have to make sure that I don't let the fire get too big. And what I mean is that I have to respect fire. And I have to in order to do that, what I have to do is let go of my hubris, of my ego. So what this proverb says to me, we should put out fire while it's still small. I think that we have to check our ego, check our passions, and deal with them and feel them accordingly while they're still small, just like Simon said, instead of um, bottling them up and letting them grow to something that is uncontrollable and destructive. So I think what I'll leave my interpretation with is an affirmation, which is that I embrace and I respect chaos, and I am, I am humility, and I am calm. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate this every day that you do it, and it's good to see you again.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mimi. I appreciate your contribution, and I'm glad that you're back and, just communing with us here. And I want to just quickly give a shout out to M. Jewel, who is joining us on YouTube. Again, if you want to join us on YouTube, the link is at the top of the room. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can continue growing this little village of ours. And for those who are just joining us, today's proverb is from Kenya, and it says we should put out fire while it is still small. So let's hear from Adi. Adi, how are you? Where are you joining us from? And when you hear this proverb, what comes to your mind?
Thank you very much, Simon. I'm doing great. I reside in Ghana, Accra, but currently I am in Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, so just like you said, what it means also is being able to address our negative emotions once they start. So once we start feeling that there is something we feel very bad about, it's good for us to explore that feeling and then really try to understand and analyze it and see where it comes from. And then, of course, there are situations where it also means that when you see signs that something will go bad, like it could be perhaps a business deal, relationship, or even parenting, when you start seeing signs that this thing might not work out, it's just good to address it. I'm the type of person who usually easily backs out. It's good and it's bad. Of course, it has its good and bad sides. But recently, in my company, we had a business relationship that didn't really start well, where it seemed like the other side was not too professional. And I wanted to back out, and my partner was like, no, let's keep going. Let's keep pushing it. Let's learn something from it. And right now, it's so bad that we wish we had, opted out initially. So yes, it was a learning curve, but it could also have been stemmed from the beginning if we had opted out. And so it's just a lesson that we need to be able to analyze our emotions, analyze our surroundings, analyze situations so that we are able to make informed decisions. Thank you very much.
Oh, Adi, thank you so much. I love how this actually applies to, business situations and business relationships too. And it's true. Sometimes you need to trust your gut. You need to trust your gut so that you don't have to go through a lot of pain before you let go of that pain. You don't need to go through a lot of suffering before you realize that this fire that I started by myself, I could actually put it out before the flames started affecting my entire surrounding. So thank you again. If you're just joining us, the proverb that we are discussing is from Kenya, and it says we should put out fire while it is still small. And this is the Daily African Proverbs, and this conversation is being recorded for the African Father in America podcast, which is available across all podcasting platforms. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Magali Toure, who is joining us on YouTube, and of course M. Jewel, who is also joining us on YouTube. The link is at the top of the room if you'd like to join us there. And we started the Daily African Proverbs in January 2021, and we have been pushing it. almost every day we do this. And the beautiful thing is that we also make the content available for you. We are currently also working on a blog. It's called Raise Your Consciousness blog. And in the next week or so, it's going to be available on my website as well. So stay tuned for that. And also check out the link tree on my profile, which is my profile on Instagram or Twitter, so that you can check out my latest book, Rooted in Love. Well, my first book, Rooted in Love, and grab a copy. It's officially out on March 7th. So it's on pre-sale as we speak, but the ebook is already out there on Amazon, and you can grab a copy even today. It's just $5.99. It's an amazing photo book that talks about the work I've been doing with One Vibe Africa, but just encourages you to also understand that you can actually transform your own community through the kind of programs that I've been doing with One Vibe, and through the community that has been supporting One Vibe since 2008. So again, welcome. I want to hear from Vitalis now. Vitalis, thank you again for joining us for today's conversation. The proverb we are focusing on says that we should put out fire while it is still small. When you hear that, what comes to your mind?
Thank you very much, Simon. I appreciate you for setting up a great room like this, and for inviting me to join on stage. I really appreciate that. My name is Vitalis. I am calling in from Minnesota, United States. This is a great topic, and I do really identify with that proverb. I come from West Africa, from Cameroon, and there's a similar proverb that, it's in this case, it's not using fire, but it's using rain. It says that you should get ready for the rain while you find or see it coming from the hills. So putting out a fire here, I think that, personally, I have had my own share of fires throughout my life, and some of them I've been able to put it out early enough. Some of them, I allowed them to burn me, and some of them just kind of burned me because I had no option. But I think that in this situation, the fire can be looked at. I know fire here is some metaphorical usage, but it could be a good thing, like Mimi talked about early on, and it could be a good and bad thing, as Eddie talked about as well. So you kind of just determine. But in this sense, I think the connotation here is looking at fire as something negative, which in that case could then translate into some of the challenges in our lives, be that in relationships, be that in our professional work, be that in business, be that in social life. We all have those different scenarios where something begins to build up, that eventually might become destructive in this case. And so it's important to be able to identify that early on, and then be able to take action to divert, to deflect, or to stop it. And then the proverb makes sense in that case, to be able to avoid that. But what I'm maybe more focused on concerning this proverb is the ability to be able to even identify that fire, because it's a challenge that I've faced in my life, and I've seen that in other people's lives around me, is we do not even identify the fire, because the fire comes in different forms, and sometimes the fire might look like a friend to us. The fire might look like something that might keep us warm. The fire presents itself as something desirable, something we need. But again, it's just a false representation of that which we desire. So that is where I think emphasis should be laid, is yes, it's important that we should put out the fire while it's still small, but how is it that easy to identify the fire when it's that small? I think that's the biggest challenge that most people face in life, is to be able to identify that, and it usually kind of creeps in through our vulnerabilities. In this case, as I think Adi or maybe Mimi mentioned, through our egos. It shows up in the things that we desperately want to need, obsess about, and so it blinds us from being able to see that this is not the good fire versus or the bad fire, and be able to just help put that out early on when it's still small. So that's the way I look at it, and we can we have so many life experiences. I think everybody here has those. Uh, we can go on and on with that, but I think from an understanding perspective, that's what I think this means, and that's where I think focus or emphasis should be laid, is to being able to how do you identify those fires and be able to put them out when they're still small. So those are my thoughts for now. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, Simon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vitalis, for your time and for your contributions and the words of wisdom that you shared with us. For those who are just joining us, this is the Daily African Proverbs. We are live and direct on YouTube, and we are also live and direct on Clubhouse. If you are with us on YouTube, thank you again so much. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, and also make sure you share today's video and other videos that you see on the channel with your community members, and also push the thumbs up button so that next time when we are live, YouTube notifies you. Today we are discussing a Kenyan proverb with the hopes that by the end of our conversation, it inspires you to learn how to let go of the pain that you might be going through, to learn how to let go of some of the painful memories, and just to step back, when you've started something that it could feel better for you to step away from. So the proverb says we should put out fire while it is still small. And now we want to go to Brother, who is a regular attendee of the Daily African Proverbs. Brother, where are you joining us from today, and what does this proverb mean to you?
Peace and love, Simon, to you and all family on the platform. And I'm calling from North Carolina territory. And when I look at this, the first thing that comes to my mind is understanding it only takes a spark to start a forest fire. And I look at it as you can look at the spark or the small fire as being negative thoughts. And the more you dwell or keep thinking negative thoughts, it breeds negative thoughts. And to me, I look at or think it as to tie to the anxiety part. When you have so many negative thoughts, to me, anxiety is when you have so many negative thoughts, you can no longer think in a progressive way or to be able to move forward. You know what I mean? So it's an old saying, or two old sayings. You got to nip it in the bud, or sometimes you have to cut off your finger to save a hand. And so with that being said, being able to identify the negative thoughts or the small fire at an early stage gives you the opportunity to create positive thoughts or better thoughts to neutralize the negative feelings or emotions that's tied to the situation. So I park my plane right there. I come in love and I leave with peace. This brother Herrera.
Thank you, brother. I love your contributions as always. I appreciate you. And now, we just want to welcome those who just joined us. Welcome to the Daily African Proverbs. If you're on Clubhouse, remember to follow the the African Father in America club, and also nominate 3 to 5 people to join the club. We want to move on swiftly to Kesiwa. Kesiwa, how are you doing? And when you think about this Kenyan proverb, what is it that comes to your mind?
Oh man, first off, let me congratulate you on your new book, Simon. And immediately, I just want to thank Vitalis and brother. I like what Vitalis had to say about, not knowing which fire to choose, which is going to be the worst or which is the least fire. And I also liked what brother said of the definition of anxiety, where you can no longer, you're so consumed, you can no longer be productive in not seeing solutions. And they tie into this weekend how I'm feeling. I'm feeling grateful for our forefathers and foremothers for this March 6th marks Ghana's independence. And I realized that there are so many um, reasons that they chose to become independent March 6th. And I look at what's going on in Ukraine now and wonder, if they hadn't if they hadn't torched the British Empire's fires back then in 1957, goodness, what would it, and that, but me looking back, I'm thinking it's a small fire, right? If it had been something that they're trying to do now, oh my goodness, I can't imagine, because I realized that they made a decision swiftly, carefully, and today I'm reaping the benefits of that in some way, shape, or form. I also recognize that when a fire is put out, it takes a lot of work to cultivate that particular part that was burnt, right? So in that analogy, I see that generations later, there's still a lot of work to be done. So really do appreciate this proverb. And this is all I have to say on this case when I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kesiwa. I appreciate your contribution as well. And when we think about the themes that I wrote down for today's conversation, just around letting go of pain, letting go of painful memories, and how to let go of painful experience. Those are the 3 themes that I picked up as we were preparing for today's conversation around this Kenyan proverb, we should put out fire while it is still small. And when you think about Ghana's independence, which was one of the earliest in the continent, they helped the entire continent, let go of the pain of living under colonial rule. And when you think about Ukraine now, you find that, Russia is just trying to be a colonizer. I know many people also avoiding to get into the conversation of what's going on in Russia. But if I were Putin, I would have put out that fire while it was still small. After annexing Crimea, I would have just stopped there. But now he has gone too far, and now the entire world is literally going after him. So a lot of people are going to suffer because Putin was not willing to stop the fire or put it out while it was still small. And I think this might actually mark the end of his presidency. This is going to be hard on him at a personal level and his inner circle. So we will see how it goes. Thank you again, Kesiwa. My brother Johnny, thank you and Tiff for hosting the space for me yesterday to talk about the new book, Rooted in Love, that Kesiwa also touched on. This is, it wasn't easy to put out this book. And as I was saying, yesterday, it took a little over 6 years. So any support is truly, truly appreciated. I'll pass you the microphone.
Peace, Brother Simon. Thank you as always for holding this space, the Daily African Proverbs. Like Kasiwa, I share the same sentiments. Brother Vitalis, his interpretation about choosing which fires to fight. I think that that's definitely the battle, and recognizing them early is a key and a skill. And so with that, I think for me the interpretation from the proverb is about being proactive. And when I think about the proverb, it makes me think of an Aesop fable, the swallow and the other birds. And that Aesop fable said that it happened that a countryman was sowing some hemp and seeds in the field where a swallow and some other birds were hopping about, picking up their food. Beware of that man, quoth the swallow. Why, what is he doing? Said the others. That is hemp seed he is sowing. Be careful to pick up every one of the seeds, or else you will repent it. The birds paid no heed to the swallow's word, and by the hemp grew up and was made into cord, and the cord's nets were made. And many a bird that had despised the swallow advice was caught in the nets made out of that very hemp. What did I tell you? Said the swallow. Destroy the seeds of evil, or to grow up to your ruin. Thank you, Brother Simon.
Thank you, Johnny. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And now let's hear from Michelle. Michelle, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from? And what does today's proverb from Kenya mean to you?
Good morning, everyone. Hailing from California, U.S. Simon, thank you for bringing me up. I wasn't going to come up because I'm just learning. I'm a student in this room. And I just want to thank all of the speakers for sharing and the enlightenment and the caring in this room. It's really almost overwhelming. I do have something to share. My daughter is an entrepreneur, and I'm on her administrative assistant. Most of the time I'm paid, but this year she actually started paying me. So that's kind of an inside joke. But anyway, we're working on a project with a client who is very difficult. My husband overheard, we were growing her business, and my husband overheard enough to tell me that he didn't think this was a good client. And my husband's not the type of person to really, he's not super opinionated, as I am. And so I had actually gone back. My daughter lives on the East Coast. I live on the West Coast. I'd actually gone back to her home, and I mentioned to her, I said, I don't think we should accept this client. And, we were both growing her business, and so she was hesitant to turn down the business. It wasn't about the money. She was just trying to grow clients. So I unfortunately didn't push it because I had just, my own intuition, which I think is very much underrated. If you think about how many times in your gut you felt something wasn't right, but we're not really, especially in Western society, we're not really taught to acknowledge that inner gut feeling, that intuition. So, needless to say, things did not turn out well. The client was very, very difficult. We actually ended up losing a little bit of money trying to appease her. Very, very difficult client. And so of course, I felt bad. She felt bad. So I'm really working on this forgiveness thing. So I'm definitely going to listen to this over again because Simon's words really, and a lot of your words really resonated about forgiveness. And forgiveness is so powerful. And I just want to share with you one more thing. I don't want to talk too long, but we have a person who's part of our extended family now. But in the beginning of the relationship with one of my daughters, I have 5 daughters, she was very rude to one of my daughters. And they were in college together to the extent that this daughter was so hurt that she couldn't even go to sleep that night. And she said she just tossed and turned, and she needed to go to school the next day. And she finally prayed for her, and she was able to go to sleep. So she basically forgave her to a certain extent, prayed for her. And I just want to tell all of you that praying for someone who has wronged you, especially if you're feeling, hurt, um, humiliated, mistreated, you can bless that person. You can pray for them. There is so much power in that because you're neutralizing those feelings that we all have. Many of us are very sensitive, as I am. So I just wanted to share that with you. And this person is now part of our family. She has a chronic illness, which at the time she was taking medication, which may have impacted her behavior, but she has become part of our family. Um, and there's just so much power. There's so many things we can do with our mind if we just realize it. It's so powerful. And with that, I'm going to turn off my mic and I'm sending all of you blessings. Have a great day. And again, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for being here with us and for sharing really, inspiring, real stories about what's going on for you, and also, just sharing with us how this proverb actually applies to the business that you're running with your daughter. And for those who are just joining us, this is the Daily African Proverbs. We do this Monday to Friday. And our hope is that today, with this particular proverb, you learn a little bit about letting go of the pain that you're going through, letting go of, painful memories or painful experiences, and learning how you can actually put out the fire while it is still small. So we are going to move on to my wonderful sister, Tiff Countryman. How are you, Tiff? Thank you again for, having me yesterday.
Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising, Simon. Thank you so much for this space and for your strength and for your consistency. And thank you for inviting me up to the stage. And again, for yesterday, for coming by my crib and for sharing your latest creative endeavor. And for my brother Johnny, thank you so much for standing beside us and for sharing your sentiments and value as well. Last night, just to God be the glory for the things that He has done. In case you all don't know, Simon has a book that is being released on March 7th, but you can go ahead and get the digital copy now. I'm sure it's in his bio, it's on his Instagram. So please support our brother who stands with us daily so that we can come in this space and receive some sort of encouragement, refreshment, just some motivation to continue to run on and see what the end is going to be. When I look at the proverb today, we should put out fire. We should put out fire while it is still small. We should put out fire while it is still small. When I read that, I instantly think about myself. I like to approach things quickly. I want to go ahead and confront it and get it over with and just not let anything fester, just to face the truth, go to the horse's mouth, whatever term that suits you. That's what I used to like to do. But over the last year or so, I learned that sometimes you have to allow a fire to sizzle, to build just for a little bit. Because there may be some things that need to burn off, or some things that are sent up in the signal of smoke that you may not have seen before. But sometimes you have to let it sizzle a little bit for it to even become small. I think so often we might look at this proverb and think of the large fire, or a fire destroying a forest, a city, a village of people, but we have to focus on that it has to become a fire in the first place, that it has to be small. Sometimes some things have to burn. Sometimes we have to smell the smoke, and sometimes we have to see that something is wrong. There has to be some sort of signal in order for us to fix something. So when I look at that proverb, I reflect on myself and I resonate. And I understand that there is sometimes where you need to smother, but sometimes we need to let it sizzle just a little bit to see what needs to be burnt out. Thank you so much, Simon, for this opportunity, and hello to everyone in the room. Make sure you follow this club and tap in with our brother because he's doing amazing things. This is Tiff, and I'm done speaking.
Wow, thank you very much, Tiff, for your contribution and also for all the work that you do in your own club. I'm just grateful. And now let's hear from Richmo. By the way, if you want to grab the book, my new book that is out on March 7th, that Tiff just touched on, the best place to go to is on my Linktree. It's connected to my Instagram and Twitter profile. So if you go there now, you'll be able to, pre-order it, and also you'll be able to, get the link to the ebook, the ebook that is already available. And now we want to move on swiftly. We want to go to my brother Richmo. How are you doing, my brother?
Hey, Simon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody else in the room. Simon, as I said earlier in another discussion we had, is congratulations and the thought leaders that are in this room. The inspiration that is always in this space is mind blowing. But I'm glad that we can archive this and the creativity. So again, thanks for having this space. I'm a little bit biased on the fact that this proverb is from Kenya. I always say, if any one of you lands into Kenya, it's like you've kissed the gates of heaven. So make a point and travel to Kenya in all your travels. So yeah, that's the bias that I have. But I love traveling, and even though I'm here in the United States. Probably it's amazing because to me it allows me to be grounded in the realization of the common denominator there is fire, and based on the context, we should put out fire while it's still small. You have to flash back and think of the elements of fire and the fact that fire in itself can purify. If you're talking about to a goldsmith or to one who's in the craftsmanship, that the level of fire that is put on the raw material, whether gold or silver, to purify it. But on this context, I want to highlight the ability that fire has and the capability of fire. Fire in itself, if it was to speak or vocalized, fire and the grave are the two elements are found mysterious under the sun that never say enough. That if you are to start a fire, at the back of your mind, you have to always understand fire never says enough. I think I've burnt enough. It's time for me to be put off. Fire has that innate, it's like a more metaphysical aspect where it will keep growing and building up. And I am a product of burnt moments. And my life consists of times where I've been burnt, whether it's emotional, psychologically, in the failures of the past. But I'm always reminded that those are fires that are supposed to ground me to know that, hey, do I really want to revisit this particular phase of my life, whether it's an emotional area, an academic space? Because that fire has a tendency, if I light it in the subconscious, it won't say, hey, Richmo, enough, okay, shut it down. And it's a message to us in a more subliminal way that fire will never say enough, whether it's going to be purifying something so that we may wear it as gold, whether it's a situation that has started. And we talk about the wars, thinking of Ukraine, I call it the Kremlin War because in the art of war in itself doesn't make man great, or it doesn't make people or men evil. It actually reveals evil. And so this is a fire that doesn't make men great. It reveals great men if it's done in the right context. Whether this war was done right or whether it was done wrong, time will tell. But the fire that it started will reveal the evils that are there. And as somebody mentioned in this room, and I really echo the same sentiments, if only it was put out earlier. Probably there are evils that we wouldn't want to see. I called it organized chaos, whether it's at the humanitarian front, the fires that are being started there, whether it's at the diplomatic space, the fires that are being started there, and the metaphysical aspect as I come back to it, how it will keep growing, and we only hope that it will reveal great men, the great men and women who will come out of this fire and say enough. Because as it is, this fire might not want to be put off. So let's always remember that we are grounded by the fact that in the areas we've been burnt, maybe those fires are to help us understand better, reason better. Our faculties become more keen to say, this fire has a tendency of not wanting to be put off, let's put it off. And in the areas where fires are supposed to bring out the good and the refining and the purification aspects, then those areas, maybe we should let it burn a little more and refine our aspect of love and purity and hope. But again, in this context, I want to really say that I hope that we are revealed in time that we were the good men and women who put out fires that could have turned out to be a disaster. Richmo, and I'm speaking.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Richmo. I love your words of wisdom that you shared with us today. And we now want to continue on by listening to Jiba. Jiba, how are you? Where are you joining us from? And what does today's proverb mean to you? My brother Jiba, for some reason I cannot hear you. So if you want to...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brother Salmon. Congratulations on the book. I'm really excited. I'm definitely going to put my hand on one of those, and I am hopefully I can send you one so you can autograph for me. But again, congratulations. I'm Jiba, and I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My take on this proverb really, it just brings a lot of fear in me, just looking at, what is currently going on in the world. With the Ukraine and Russia situation, I'm really terrified that this fire that we are seeing may spread into, various parts of the world. So quite often history have taught us that European civil war or ethnic cleansing often turn out to become a world war, situation. We have seen from the First World War to the Second World War, all started in Europe, but we end up fighting that war in Africa, or Africa got involved, or in fact, the whole world got involved. So I'm really, really worried about it. I've not worried a lot about, all these nuclear threats that the superpower have often, raised in the news media for a very long time. But this one really scared me. Just miscalculation is what worried me most. Miscalculation of turning this little fire off that seems to look like a little fire right now. The miscalculation can turn this fire into a much bigger fire that I don't know. Yeah. So really, I'm worried. I'm worried for humanity. I'm scared. I pray every day and every night, and I hope that world leader will calculate this, conflict, with cautions and care, and with some great sense of, clarity, so that it can turn out to become a small fire. Yeah. So that's my take on this. I'm Jiba, I'm done speaking.
Thank you, my brother Jiba. For those who are actually meeting Jiba for the first time, he's also an author of about 6 different books. So I've read most of his books, and when he's speaking about this war in Ukraine, he's speaking from experience. He was in Liberia during the war. He had to escape, and he's written books about some of the people who. People like George Weah, who is now the Liberian president, how George Weah overcame all the odds to become who he is now, despite the war that was going on in Liberia. So this is very, very traumatizing for those who have actually gone through, wars in their countries. So thank you for sharing your perspectives, Jiba, and I can't wait for you to grab this book and let me know what you think about it. Now let's hear from Jay. briefly before we get towards the last sections of our conversation today. I just want to thank you, Eve and Zize and M. Dayton and Tasha, Shomari, Kay, Steve, who is joining us from Kisumu, and Stella, who is also joining us from Migori in Kenya. Those are my team members at One Vibe. We work together, so please follow them so that you can learn about them and and the people who are helping me make a lot of the work that I do here in the Daily African Proverbs and One Vibe Africa possible. And I also see that we've been joined by Tutaleni. Thank you so much for joining us, my brother. Jay, how are you? And when you think about today's proverb from Kenya that says we should put out fire while it is still small, what is it that comes to your mind?
Thank you so much, dear brother. And the first thing that came to my mind had to do with children and the mischief that children will get into, and that they'll test you to see how far they can go, what you'll tolerate, what you'll put up with. Um, and many times, children will do things that are they're inappropriate and they're unacceptable, but parents might say, "Oh, that's so cute," because they're little, because they're small. But some of these fires you need to put out in them. Some of the things that they're doing, some of the ways that they're acting, um, before it gets out of control, before it gets out of hand. And in working in the legal system, some of the things that people are charged with and found guilty of, when it gets to the sentencing, you'll hear about their past and their upbringing, what they were exposed to, what they were traumatized by. And if those fires had been put out using wisdom, and in many cases, the parents didn't have the wisdom, the parents didn't have the knowledge, the parents didn't have the forethought in order to be able to raise that child in a healthy environment, a healthy set of circumstances, healthy conditions. Um, and then the behavior became a roaring fire. Um, Regarding the war, and I'm going to say this very quickly, maybe 3 or 4 sentences, is that there are fires all over the world. That's the problem. There's fires all over the world. And when you try and put one out or contain one, control one, the problem is that you're not seeing the fire in you, that you didn't control the fire in you, the behavior, the actions, the conduct, the history, the troubles in you in order to put out those fires somewhere else. This is Jay, and I'm finished speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jay. I just, invited my brother Ken to join us as well. So, Tutaleni, my brother, how are you? And, share with us how you're doing, where you're joining us from, and then we'll hear from Ken in just a moment. Ken is from Kenya, and he's going to wrap up for this session for us because he probably has a good perspective as well. So, Ken, let's hear from Tutaleni quickly, then come to you. Tutaleni, the mic is yours.
My brother Simon, always a pleasure to be in this space with you, and thank you for continuing to provide us with a connection to our ancestors and guidance in the days through these proverbs. I am currently in Oklahoma in the US. I am Namibian, so this proverbs really touched me when I first read it. And I'll be real quick. 1904 to 1908, there was what was called the Herero Nama genocide in Namibia. Was considered the first genocide of the 20th century in the world. What happened there is that the German exterminated about 80% of two ethnic groups. Fast forward, the people who were doing that extermination were invited back to Germany to then implement what has become known as the Holocaust. Um, to the rest of the world, Namibia was this little fire that they ignored. And looking at it now, that is what led to World War that drew in multiple different countries. So I often wonder what would have happened to the world, how many lives would have been saved if the world has cared enough to actually address what was happening in Namibia and stop the genocide there. Would it have perhaps prevented a war around the world? But at the same time, I also feel that the proverb can be a little bit dismissive because a fire might seem small to me, but it's still burning that person. So while the world dismissed Namibia as just another small little place, um, decades later and for centuries to come, the country is impacted uh, by that war, by that extermination, by that genocide. It wasn't a small fire to us. It might have been a small fire to other people. So it's a good reminder that while we can be dismissive of something as small to us, it might mean a lot to a lot of people. A paper cut might be insignificant to somebody who has been stabbed with a knife, but at the end of the day, both people are still feeling pain, and that pain should not be ignored. I'm Tudor I'm done speaking.
Wow, excellent, excellent, Tutaleni. Thank you again for your amazing words of wisdom and contribution. Ken, how are you doing? And what are your thoughts about this Kenyan proverb that we are discussing today?
Yeah, my brother, thank you. And that's my brother from, actually, we're from the same village. Me and, wow, me and Simon who speaks the same language. And
And we
I
live in the
love,
same city here in the US too.
and we are both from Seattle, Washington. And I love what this guy is. This guy is just like one of those community guys. Like he's always everything Simon does is always good for the community, you know. And that's what we need. That's what we need for like an individual who has like this guy is just like awesome, right? Yeah. But what I was gonna say, like yeah. So when you look at the proverbs, so one of the things like okay, wow, I couldn't figure out the best one to use, but it's like okay, don't do the do before the do does you. Do not do the do before the do does you. That's not. It doesn't even look like English. It doesn't even sound like an English word. But anyway, it's one of those like yeah. We have to recognize what I mean. What that word that what that proverb mean is like I am. We need to recognize the family structure. So I am on my my whatever I wanna talk about is like the family structure, and it's very important with us like African families or any other families, right? So, and it is so hard. This one of the most sensitive topics, right? Don't do the do before they do does you, right? So it's one of those like okay, wow, what? Don't do the do before they do does you. I don't know. Hey, my brother Simon,
I
do you
like
think you can
I like it.
can you like can you Unaweza fafanua hiyo?
Yeah, let me say it in Luo because it actually
Okay,
sounds good.
fanua it and then I can speak about it.
Yeah,
Go.
kikitim gino kagino poko timi donge.
Exactly, brother. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes, so it's one of those things that tells us, like, yeah, whatever you do in life, just get prepared. Everything you do, even if you are like you need a job, go to school and get your undergrad, get your grad or PhD, or if you're getting married, make sure you know you identify the woman, like I, Omera. I don't know how to the best way to put it, but anyway.
yeah, it's I like what you're saying. It's a serious what you're saying is that this is a serious commitment. Like um if you start a fire and you decide that you want to put it out, you have to take it seriously. It is a life commitment. What you're saying is that what this proverb is teaching us is that if the fire is already out there, whether it's small or big, you've already taken an action. So if you want to change the course of the action you've taken, you have to know that it's something else that could turn into something else. So it's
Yeah.
it's about
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank
making
you for
sure.
clarifying that.
Of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course, I tried.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, guys, I was just trying to encourage people, like, yeah. So just so whatever you do, everything is not gonna be like even the marriage, like, and I wanna base this on the families together, marriage. It's not gonna be, it's not gonna work. I mean, I don't want to say it's not gonna work, but it's not like, yeah. Everything we do in life, just stay positive. This is what I do, and I've worked with Simon before. So, but what I'm trying to say, this I want this to mean this proverb: don't do the do before they do does you. And Simon Aliwambia, he told you guys what that thing means in our whatever, right? So it's just like, yeah. So whatever you need in life, just like have a focus. Is like it might not work, it might work, but keep going. Don't do the do before the do does you. So just think about it. Everything you do in life, have a focus, and it just like just stay focused. It doesn't matter how it's gonna work. Maybe it might not work, but just keep pushing it. Keep pushing it. And you know what we have, like, and then I base it on our African parents. Our African will push you. Okay. So what do you have? What's going on? They will ask you, so what's going on? And then they'll push you. So yeah. So it's the don't do the do. I mean, do the do before the do does you, right? Yeah. So it's like focus, focus, focus. Everything you do, focus. Everything you guys do, focus. And and then put Lord about it, right? If it doesn't work, like whatever, then oh yeah, there's Jesus Christ or whatever. If you believe in Jesus Christ, Lord, the thing will work. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say, my brother.
Thank you.
Bro, it's always good to see you, and you always have good stuff going on. You always having all good rooms going on. Yeah, that's all I want to say, man. Thank you, bro.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, man.
I appreciate you also for all the amazing work that you do. Ken is one of the co-founders of an amazing soccer team here in the US, actually, that brings Kenyan youths together for the last many years, almost 10 years. So what you're doing through sports is very, very much appreciated. And I wanted to bring Tess to the stage because this is a Kenyan proverb, and Tess has a very amazing depth of wisdom. I wanted you, Tess, to just share with us, just quickly what your perspectives on today's proverbs are. And, one thing that I think Tess would agree with is that many of these proverbs are not in the original language. And so the way Ken was, speaking about this proverb, it forced me to say it in our mother tongue because it's much more clear in the original language. So Tess, just share your perspectives and then we'll wrap up our conversation after that.
Thank you so much, Wadwa. Greetings to the room, peace to the room, and everything that was in my brain kind of evaporated when Ken said, "Do the do before the do does you." I don't know how, Simon, you are able to respond with a straight face. I love you, Ken. Um, so this proverb and what I could think about in our native language and even translating it to Swahili that says usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta, meaning if you don't mend the crack, you will be forced to build a whole new wall. And I think it's pretty much self-explanatory because, when you have a little fire, it's easier to put it out. But when you let it to become a wildfire, it's going to be more and more difficult to put it out. And I'd like to bring that back to what's going on right now, which I'm so glad to see a lot of Africans and ambassadors kind of trying to get ahead of it to get the Africans out of Ukraine before it becomes a huge thing. Because, if we don't do that, we might have to do a lot more work later on. So it's always good to get ahead of something while it's still manageable, when you can still wrap your head around it or wrap your arms around it before it becomes unmanageable. And like Ken said, don't let the do you. My name is Tess and I'm done speaking.
No, that was my. You know what? When I was in high school, I was index 001. I was supposed to be one of the most the most brightest guy in high school, right? So was one thing I learned is like I learned the word like from Shakespeare's like do the do before the do does you. It doesn't sound like a proper English, even if like the British guys show up here. But that thing, it shows up on this like on this proverb of whatever I was presenting today. It shows up. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just share a quick story here as we close. And I wonder if Steve will remember this story. And it's probably related to what Ken is also saying. Growing up in Kenya, my mother had a shop, a retail shop, where we were selling, bread, milk, grocery. It was a grocery for our community members. And so all my siblings were always involved in the business. And one day, an uncle of mine who was visiting, who is a pastor, he's still a pastor at a well-known African Inland Church. This was an independent church that at that time the Kenyan president Moi used to attend this specific church. So the church became very popular. And so this uncle of mine attended that church. And so he came to help with the shop, and it was evening. It was getting dark. And I was just about to begin closing. And then it got windy. The shop had, steel windows. There were no glasses. So we had to basically, unpack everything before closing. So as it got windy, we had these pressure lamps, these lamps that are used for fishing, that you have to pump them before the bulb, lights up, and it's very bright when it works. But when you're lighting it with the wind, it's also very dangerous. It can, even though it's a very beautiful, bright light, just with little wind, it can turn into a big fire. So, as I was pumping it, my uncle was, serving a few customers, and I would see the wind, interrupting the flow of this light. And so a little fire, came out of the lamp. And this uncle of mine thought that this fire is dangerous. So instead of him just grabbing the light or the lamp and taking it somewhere, he actually kicked it. And when he kicked the lamp, it stuck on his feet. It, like, I don't know what happened exactly, but he kicked it so that it could get out of the window. He thought that we were all in danger. But in the process, this light got stuck in his feet because the lamp has some frames in it. And so his feet went in between the frames and he could not get it out. So his feet started burning, and as he was trying to remove the light, it started spreading across the shop, so a lot of the things were getting caught on fire. And it was just the two of us in this situation. It was getting more windy, it started raining, a storm was coming, and it was just a messy situation, that would have been rescued if he didn't even try to help. If he just left it alone, everything would have been fine. Anyhow, so him being a clergyman, and he was just in town to visit with us, this issue became a big deal in the years to come. He went back to his home, with burn injuries, and so it was suspected that maybe he cheated on his wife, and he was burned by somebody in Kisumu where he came. So the church sent an investigative team to find out what really happened to our pastor. Anyway, so it was just a crazy story around fire that happened to me personally, and I wanted to just share it because sometime there could be fire that you don't even need to react to. You just need to see it there and let it be, let it burn, and let somebody else actually deal with turning it out. But sometime you just need to grab the fire gently and control it and put it in the right place. You don't need to kick it, and then sometime you need to maybe use more energy in controlling the fire and containing it. So I just wanted to share that in closing. And, I hope that you've all learned something during our conversation today. And I will see you next week on Monday. Thank you so much.
African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington.